Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. So I wanted to talk to you today about standards and auditioning for something, cattle call auditions. If you have no experience in theater or in the arts in that way, if you're a singer or an instrumentalist or something, or someone that's an actor, you're used to auditioning. We all pretty much understand the concept of auditioning. What we don't understand all, however, unless we've been in that, is that we have to meet a certain standard depending on where we are auditioning. I myself have a background in classical music, which has a very high standard based on their standards. There are many people that would not care about technical vocal pedagogy, don't care, wouldn't consider a great opera singer, someone that I consider to be a very great opera singer, they wouldn't consider that to be very musically talented at all. So it's based on the standards set forth of that particular genre of singing. Okay, so please understand that classical singing has its own set standards, and so based on that, that is my personal background. I was trained in bel canto singing, and I am a lyric soprano. And I learned very early, because I had a very good teacher that set the standard early, that, oh, don't come in sloppy, don't come in messy, don't come in with poor technical skill or poor pedagogy. This isn't just, I'm not training people to be singing for fun. That's not what I do in these classes. When I started in high school, I was very fortunate, because that was what I wanted to be doing, was having that level of pedagogy given to me and shown to me, and have the technical expertise to help develop the raw talent, because I didn't want to. My personal passion was not to go into pop music or the more common milieu. That just wasn't where I felt my passion. It's not a stink on it. It's just that I preferred, the classical stuff. I loved opera, etc., etc., etc. One of my biggest heroes when I was growing up was Beverly Sills, who was a very famous opera singer who was on the Muppets. And I thought, anybody that can hang out with Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, I absolutely want to know what she's about, and I want to do what she does. And I did. I just didn't get to hang out with Kermit the Frog or Miss Piggy. But anyway, when I was in high school, I learned very early, at 15 years old, that when I auditioned for my high school teacher, who was not your average high school music teacher, he just was not. He had a very high bar for his advanced classes. In his beginning class, he set the standard there, but couldn't expect quite as much. However, when I auditioned, he told me, okay, you've made it through the first hurdle, congratulations, and he gave me a list of instructions. Excuse me, I was meeting him at the end of my junior high year, my last junior high year, meeting him there, and him saying, this summer, you're going to need to do a summer musical, you're going to need to, be practicing way more than you do now, et cetera, et cetera. And he gave me a list of stuff that he expected before I was going to be given firm placement into the advanced chorale that he had allowed me into when I auditioned. It wasn't typical for, a freshman or a sophomore, I think sophomore is what they called it, 10th grade, wasn't normal, it wasn't the average. Usually that was for the advanced class, but I had a skill. He noticed it. However, he said, don't sit down and get comfortable somewhere, baby. But, I see this, but it doesn't mean much to me. I see talent all the time. And I also see talent that doesn't really mold itself or work well with the molding process. And I'm not going to mess with it. I don't mess with it. I got other people that I can be helping that want help. So, when I said, what do you mean I have to go to summer school? And he said, oh, is that how this is going to be? That you're going to start right here? We don't even barely know each other. And you're already going to start resisting? Okay, let me set the standard right quick there for you, Kate, that no, this is how this goes. Because you have a talent, I see it, and that's great, fantastic. You could be a prodigy. I really could care less. It doesn't mean anything to me if it doesn't mean enough to you to actually put in the time on deck to make that happen. And I'm your conduit for that, then I'm going to be your conduit for that. But if you're asking me to be a conduit for your sloppy, value standards or your way of life or whatever might be getting in the way of you meeting my standard, no, I don't change my standard, but you need to if you want to make it in here. So that was my first audition experience. Was, oh my God, the audition was great. It was the afterwards that now I expect you to live up to the position that I've just allowed you into. That says you have a certain level of skill and you have a certain level of ability, and I'm going to expect 444 that you show up and be ready to start from that position and keep moving. Don't land anywhere and get comfortable. Keep it moving. And so what I learned in those processes of going through high school and college is that it's a highly competitive field. Singing is, it's just like everything else else that you take to the nth degree. It's highly competitive. However, with the standard that was being set before me, it was competitive at the classical music level, which is very has a very cultured, gracious, poised, elegant, etc. It's a very posh feel to it. Even if we're not, we are definitely giving that feel. We wore long gowns, and the men wore tuxedos. It was very formal, and I understood that we have this expectation of formal behavior with formal talent and formal expression of very highbrow stuff. That's where you are. That's what you've asked to get into. That's what you auditioned and you successfully made it through to be here. Then you got to keep that standard and don't show up sloppy. Just don't show up sloppy. He used to tell us that you walk on like gangbusters and you go on to keep proving that shit. Don't do something slow. 555 that's going to embarrass me or what we're here doing or what we're about. And it was a little offensive, as a 15-year-old kid. I'm thinking, really? Does he not know about, Michael Jackson and, stuff like that? It wasn't that. That Michael Jackson had the same standard. He was just singing different music, baby. Don't get it screwed up. Don't mess that up. And understanding what you know about this is that the standard set forth. And if you audition for that, then I expect that standard. And we went from classical music primarily into a musical twice a year, or once a year rather. And we did a musical. The musical was still, your baseline talent is expected to show up being right here at the most pedagogically perfect place that it can be based on where you are and your technicality and all of that. However, we're going to tighten or loosen up on the music itself. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, more enjoyable in terms of like you get to move around the stage and more relaxed, et cetera, because you need to be flexible, baby. You can't be so uptight. You're only, standing rigid. This was his idea. I liked it. That I don't want to train into you that you're, like a box. You're standing there, rock solid. You need to be able to move your talent and keep it going and be quite flexible while you're doing that. But keep the level of quality of your singing right here, and never dip down into that, whatever. He was very disparaging of what was called pop music. I don't know what you call that today, but he didn't have much appreciation for Michael Jackson's actual musical talent, but he did understand the A game the man brought. So, but anyway, so what I learned, as I said, is that there's a certain standard, and I realized that cattle call auditions, whenever you take that idea, cattle call auditions means that anybody can show up. We're going to put an announcement, out there into the ethers of, hey, there's a show happening, we're auditioning and it's cattle call. Anybody and their brother can show up. You just show up with, 2 bars of your favorite whatever, and, we're going to just be going through the masses, the herds. And generally, cattle call auditions are for the common parts, the anybody parts. We just need bodies in here. We need background people. We need incidental characters. We need, just fillers, essentially. And you don't have to have a great deal of actual technical skill. You have to meet a baseline standard. You can read music or, whatever that is. However, it's pretty low. We don't expect you to be, the superstar of the show. And if you're expecting to be the superstar of the show, you're probably not cattle call auditioning. So, it depends on what your expectations are, but we know what ours are. So if we're getting a lot of people that are showing up in our lives, that are cattle calling, it might be that we're putting out the vibe that, yeah, I just take anybody into my show. If you're doing an anybody cattle call kind of show as your life, then it doesn't matter who shows up and who you play characters with. It doesn't matter what the stage is. We'll take anything. It doesn't matter. And I realized that, stop putting the vibe out there that cattle call auditions for those significant parts in my life, different people that I'm going to have close to me. I can play cattle call in some areas where it doesn't matter. I'm going to the grocery store, then I'm going to be on a stage with whoever happens to be there, whoever answered the call to be there at that same time, that we're all going to be mooing around in the store together. However, my personal life, my friends, people that I hold very close to me, my jobs, et cetera, where I'm going to be really interacting with people, other players on a stage, then I'm not selecting that out of a cattle call, because no, your chances are way lower that I'm gonna find somebody that's actually the caliber I'm looking for, because it's already understood that if it's an open call, that can be anybody. They can be people that have, degrees in music like I do. However, they don't have to be. They can be anybody. Whereas if I know I'm looking for a specific role for it to be filled, or I'm looking to fill a particular role in a show that interests me, somebody else's life, for instance, then I need to understand what is the caliber of music that they're singing, what's the caliber of singer that they're looking for, am I the most appropriate singer to fill that role? If it's the role of someone that's designated by the show standards as a 20-year-old, then me as a 56-year-old, then I'm already, there's already factors that take me out of that. Now you can kind of jimmy jock around and all that, but I'm talking just straight, facts on things. Sometimes we're not the right height, we're not the right weight, we're not the right, kind of voice. I'm a lyric soprano. I am not a contralto, or I'm not a coloratura. I'm not a lot of things. However, if I know what I am, then I start really honing my life and who I'm going to be doing shows with in such a way that, oh, you are looking for a lyric soprano, you are looking to do the kind of show that I'm looking to do. We're both into opera here in life. We have a classical standard, and it's here. And there's no need to be angry at all the people who want to do, heavy metal, or they want to do whatever they do, or all the prejudices are we have. It's very metaphorical here, please run with me, that it isn't about hating on all of that. It's about selecting and understanding 1111 and knowing very clearly that I'm into what I'm into, and I have this standard based on that standard. There is what allows me to set my standard, because I like the way I feel when I'm wearing a formal gown and I'm singing in an opera, etc., doing my life at that caliber, at that level, no matter whether I'm wearing a gown or not. You understand, this is very metaphorical. So if I like that, then why would I take people, grunge musicians that aren't playing the kind of music, that don't read music, perhaps, I don't know, as well, that can't sing as well based on my standard over here? They are not wrong. There are way more people out there in music land that are not singing by, good singing standards based on this over here. There's a lot more people over here because it's more relatable and it's easier to sing. But by technical pedagogy and all that, well, not really. However, is there some difference other than personal preference? Because believe me, I spend a lot of time listening over here. I'm a huge fan of rock music. I'm very much into it. However, for my life standard, my music, how I'm going to be making music and etc., it would be over here. And so when I'm embracing people into my world, or I'm asking to be embraced in somebody else's, it's very helpful to not show up in a cattle call. If I've got somebody that's already cattle calling, I don't want to be a part of that show, because you already don't know what you're looking for your main parts. If you're just looking to fill people at the grocery store, fine. However, if you're looking for a partner, a business partner, a mother figure, a father figure, a sibling type, or, familial stuff, then cattle call auditions really don't work for me, because I don't want to take what the sloppy standard is that you've already set, which is that it's down here, based on my preferences, not on some snooty position of I'm better, I deserve, none of that. That's really not what I'm talking about. However, I also want to be very clear that if they're very clear for themselves about what their role is that they're looking for, if they have some flexibility in, I'm looking for somebody, a mature woman that can play the role of blah, 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 and I've got some swing area and I prefer blondes. However, we can adapt and have some room here with this, those kinds of ideas. Metaphorically, this is not, in real life. So if we've got some flexibility there, then that means that we have some workable stuff here. We have a show that we can be producing together, and it can meet both of our needs, and it can be fantastic. Whereas if I try to jam myself over in grunge as a performer or as a listener who's going to consider that that's substituting for that, then I'm going to end up in a lot of cognitive dissonance and anger about, well, they're not as good as that over there, or they won't let me in. Why do I keep coming over here and auditioning and I'm not making it in? Because you're not suited for that genre. That's not really where you belong if you want to perform. And if you want to perform and listen over here, that's called leisure, and whatever, fine, if that's good for you. However, to come over here in your leisure time and be hating on them because they don't sing as well as over there at 1414, there's a whole lot of cognitive dissonances in there, and it comes from not understanding and appreciating the fact that my standard for part of my life is over here. How I make my music, how I produce my life show is here. However, it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate that other people, their standard is right here as well. It's just in their standards, in their SOPs. That's how they build that, and they're allowed to do that. We can't cross over, though, and expect that to really work well if it's not compatible. It's not a matter of better or worse. It's a matter that this standard is better for me to live by, because that's where I can express me in the best way that I know how to. The best expression of you over here is your standard, and it's pretty high, that it make me feel really good about myself. It opens up all the channels for me to be able to be expressing the gifts that were given to me. That's the standard. So if it's met over here by wearing a tux, cool, let's do that. If it's met over here by, smashing a guitar into the stage, okay, it's not mine. However, over here is not theirs, where neither of us is wrong. Where we run into a lot of problems is when we hate on the group over here, or they hate on the group over here, and we start designating the superiority about that. It's not a comparative study. It doesn't have to be. Now, in music, I will be very straight up honest with you. That's a highly competitive, especially classical music. You get cut in those things, hurt. But because people take it very seriously, we study for hours and hours and hours in practice rooms, become our bedrooms and our breakfast and lunch and dinner and everything else. We're very acquainted with spending hours of time in technical precision. However, that does not ever negate the fact that the same amount of hours is over here in a very technical way that's different. So learning to recognize and appreciate that standards that are being set by other people, if they've got no standard, that I'm just going to say thanks, but no, I need something more formed than that. However, that is a standard in and of itself. It just doesn't meet where I am in what I'm doing, and I don't like that free-for-all thing. It doesn't work for me. However, over here, whatever that is, whatever the standards are, high, low, by comparison, no need. Do I fit what that is looking for? Does it fit what I'm looking for? And when it doesn't, to walk away from that with a lot of kindness and a lot of allowance for, hey, go make your music however you make it. This is great, and to dip out in those places where, oh, I see I've entered a cattle call. My apologies. This really doesn't serve me. And because it doesn't serve me, even if you let me in, it's not going to serve you either. There will be disgruntlement eventually when that all comes unraveled. So let's just not start that. And that's a lot of self-reflection that has to happen to be able to understand what is it that I do want, what is the standard that I'm setting, and what is the standard that I'm willing to work with, or adapt to, and how much adaptation am I willing to give. My teacher, set the bar early that adapt to nothing, absolutely nothing. The standards are this. I expect to tune piano anywhere we sing. I expect you to be in your gown. I expect the dudes to be in their tuxes. I expect you to walk, a certain way and carry that presence of elegance, etc. Because that was the standard, and it really just grooved my soul, and it still does. Whereas, don't think I can't get down, over here getting it on with some grunge music or some real intense, rock and roll. I like Metallica a lot, so being able to do that. However, the standard for how I do my whole life as one, bundle in one production, I can have a scene or two over here, but if I'm trying to call that, the same thing, it will not translate, and it turns into a whole lot of disappointment, sadness, etc. And people get super mad when they're asked to leave my show, or I get super mad whenever I'm asked to leave their show. And we would just be better off to say, well, okay, I learned that I really wasn't suited for that, or they weren't suited for mine. However, it takes a minute to kind of recover from all the butt sore about it. But when we do, 1818, it helps us work through the ideas and the assumptions and the challenges that we've had with just selecting the wrong place to be. When we get very clear about what is it that is for me, then we're not allowing ourselves to be drawn into everybody else's cattle call. We're not allowing everybody else who's got a cattle call, I'm looking for the cattle call. We don't allow that in because we don't open up the standard for that. And then we start migrating towards things, and things start migrating towards us that actually meets us where we are. So I hope that's helpful to you in some way, and I hope that you enjoy your day, no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember to get within your skin, because you're divine. It's absolutely fine, and it's helping you set the standard all the time. If you're not happy with, the cattle call thing, or if you want to loosen up the standards because it's too tight, that's all for you inside. You have that all within you. Your divine can help you align all of that just fine. So get within your skin, because that divine, it is absolutely fine and can sing you all the way every single time. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye, my beautiful friends. Mwah.